All proceeds from this series will go to Samaritans. Donation link in the description. Hey there, my name's Reewyn and welcome back to the Fazlore Podcast. Today I'm here with UnwitheredTruth.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to be on. Thank you for joining. And today we'll be covering Into the Pit. What was Into the Pit? So if you had to describe it in a few words, what would you say Into the Pit was?
So Into the Pit, the way I look at it would be a celebration of the series. Obviously it came out on the anniversary, and I'd say it's a fun spin-off game. I don't personally think it's part of the mainline series. We can talk about that obviously later, but I'd say a fun spin-off game which is a celebration of the series as a whole.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid explanation, because obviously even having something like the MCI actually being in the game was very much linked to just the first game in general. There's a lot of Easter eggs as well, even book Easter eggs, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that was something, because I did a video on Into the Pit a while ago looking at the canonicity of it and is it part of the main timeline or not and whatever. And something that became clear with all the stuff that I looked at from what's actually in the game and what was in development, that maybe got cut and is still left in the game files. It seems like the approach to Easter eggs was really just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Stuff from the book, stuff from the movie, stuff from the other games, stuff from anything you can think of is referenced in Into the Pit, which is why I kind of look at it as this anniversary spin-off game that's just celebrating the whole series. It's not specifically supposed to tie into any one of the games or parts of the franchise.
Yeah, I feel like using Into the Pit, the actual story for this, was a really good idea, because obviously you had the MCI and you had Springtrap, which are two major things, but then you have all the main animatronics, very much a throwback to the first game, because it's such a malleable kind of story to work with, that you can throw in these Easter eggs without ruining the actual story.
Yeah, I thought it was a great idea. I from what I know, the game started out originally as just it was supposed to be on an NES cartridge, I believe, because Megacat have this unique thing that they do where they make old SNES and NES games for actual cartridges. And Scott loved that idea because he loves that old era of gaming. But then over time, the game just evolved and got too big to even be on one of those cartridges. So taking that concept, and it obviously just appealed to them so much to run with it, to just go I nearly cursed there. I don't know if we're cursing or not.
It's okay, don't worry, we had a few, it's fine.
Okay, cool. But just going all out, I'll say, and just trying to use the concept to its fullest. I remember before the game came out, we saw a couple of different teaser images for it, and one of them in particular was the trash in the gang outside of the mill in the back of the mill area in the game. And I remember at the time thinking that what the game was going to be was, because at the time I thought it would be canon, would be part of the series, and I thought what was going to happen was the ball pit was going to take us to multiple points in the series, and we were going to go back to FNAF 6 and back to Sister Location and back to FNAF 1, but it turned out not to be that. It just turned out to be a lot of Easter eggs kind of just thrown around wherever they landed.
I feel like that would have been a really fun concept. Obviously, I do love Into the Pit as it is, but how cool would it have been to see all the different games in different, in that art style, even just in the art style. The game art style was so unique. We've had nothing like it since. Even the mini games were more 8-bit, whereas this was so detailed. I think that would have been a fun concept, but I do think what we got was also a really fun idea, and having all the Easter eggs, seeing those little bits around. Even Trash in the Gang is such a memorable group because of how funny everyone found them in FNAF 6. FNAF 6 was definitely very comedic, so that was a really fun one to kind of call back to.
Yes. Yeah, I think they picked a good selection of Easter egg material because they had characters, they had like the posters from Security Breach, they had Garrett's plane from the movie. You know, they sort of they went for a wide sweeping. I mean, like they have the Twisted Ones novel cover can replace the Godzilla poster in Oswald's room. It's like what a crazy Easter egg thing that, you know, for FNAF fans, we look at that and go, oh my god, Twisted One's fictional in-game universe book, whatever, you know, and then it's like, no, I think it's just, they just wanted to have a bit of fun. Just put stuff in.
Just shove it
no
in.
other series. Yeah. No other series, I think, gets to that level of scrutiny on Easter eggs. Like I saw a YouTube video the other day that was going through Easter eggs in the Spider-Man games, and there was one where there were these like NPCs out in the back, like out in the distance, that were really low poly and low detail. And when they remastered the game for PS5, people had made kind of a meme out of those characters. So they put a sticky note on them that said like, "Hey, did you miss us?" And I was thinking, my immediate thought was, if that happened in FNAF, we'd all be like, oh my god, they're self-aware, they know they're in a game, what does this mean for the timeline, who put the note there, why is it written on a yellow piece of paper? Yeah, they're the sticky note room, you know, we'd go insane. But I I think Into the Pit, at least the way I can, the way I'm kind of rationalizing it based on all the different Easter eggs that shouldn't really make sense within the context of the game, is that Megacat was really just treating it as a celebration, and so therefore just filling it with as many Easter eggs as they could think of, and not even all the stuff that they wanted to put in ended up in it. So I think we could have had a lot more, but I think they had enough restraint to just stick with what we got.
I definitely think it was quite funny, though, after Into the Pit, seeing all this heavy theorizing, knowing now that it's very likely the game wasn't canon. But seeing all these theories coming out, especially according to the books, like, oh, this character's real, this character's real, this character isn't real, this is this. It was very entertaining because that felt very on brand for FNAF 10th anniversary as well. It's having loads of lore that's actually completely irrelevant to the main story. It's just for fun. I feel like that's very, like, on brand for them.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, still people argue with me to this day about the game being in continuity or not. Some people think it has to be because it's a game, or it doesn't make sense that they would not say that it isn't, and blah 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 blah. But that being said, yeah, it's a fun thing to look at. And in fairness, even if it was in canon, like if it was in continuity, I think a lot of the stuff in the game would fit fine. It's more so those small details, those kind of Easter eggs in the middle, that would throw everything off. But I'm just hesitant to call it in continuity in case things in the future aren't in line with it, and then it becomes a problem then, or using it for like timeline information, like, oh, Trash and the gang are Into the Pit, but they talk about TikTok in the book, so that means that this thing, and that, you know, it must be this year, and so FFPS has to take place in 2020 million, you know, like wow. Using all the weird details that I don't think were thought of in that way as impacting, you know, the rest of the games, which I think are only a little bit more cohesive in terms of the lore direction. Yeah.
It definitely feels like, kind of like how the books, there are bits that we can take out of it, like little extracts we can take, but not like the overall kind of lore. Like, obviously we'll get more into it later, but it's kind of like, you can have reflections, you can see how it kind of parallels, but it's never going to be anything directly true. Like, on Sister Location, William Afton's name was William Afton, but the original book trilogy is like nowhere near canon. It's like on a whole different plane, so...
Well, now it's funny because, like, it used to be, oh yeah, we only just took kind of William and Henry's name and maybe Charlie's name, and we just kind of took those from the books, and that we left the rest of it behind. And now it's like, well, actually, if you take everything that Henry did and you give it to Edwin, now it's actually perfectly fine. It works entirely well. Like, those books have retroactively become way more important in terms of modern theorizing. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I think there probably will be little morsels that can indicate truths about the main continuity. I just don't think it's a one to, you know, anytime I bring up an idea for a new theory and somebody says, oh, well, in Into the Pit game, this and this happened, and I'm like, well, there's a lot more in that game that can contradict everything that's happened in the series. So
yeah.
let's try not consider it for every possibility.
Yeah, like, personally, I don't quite think some random child would just suddenly appeared in FNAF 1. Me personally. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
What was the law at the time? So, what kind of thing... I can't speak. What do you think the law... What do you think the law was at the time? Do you think it might have changed at all? Or, like, with the evidence we had then, what do you think the law was?
In terms of the game itself, like what this game was headed for?
Yeah, kind of what it's telling us, what its kind of own storyline is, like kind of general.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of interesting things about this game, which, like, you know, obviously you're already discussing that I don't think it's necessarily part of the main canon, but there are some interesting things in this game, particularly around the endings. And there's an interesting thing with, like, for example, I suppose let me go into a more of like a breakdown of the main plot before I start talking about the endings of the game. Yeah. So we have a kid named Oswald. This is obviously an adaptation of the Into the Pit short story from Fazbear Frights, the very first one. And Oswald is just after finishing summer break. He's starting up school, but his family are basically on the lower side in terms of in money. They don't have a lot of expendable cash, so they have to drop Oswald off at the library and let him go to Jeff's Pizza to get some food and, you know, some cheap I suppose babysitting for Oswald is to just let him go to public places on his own. But while he is at Jeff's Pizza, which is this kind of rundown, really crappy establishment in the middle of what I think it is actually Hurricane, Utah, because they have the same flag outside the school. But Oswald is mad at his dad because they don't have any money, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's gone on between him and his dad. These tensions. He decides to hide in the old ball pit in the corner, and when he hops in, little does he know he's getting into an agony pit or something. He comes out the other side. Yeah, some kind of... he goes into the pit, if you will. And on the other side, he arrives in the 1980s, in 1985, June. And he comes out, and it's Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and it turns out that Jeff's was originally the MCI location for Freddy's. Oswald bears witness to the MCI after having met some other kids there and making friends. Everybody freaks out, everybody runs away, and the Yellow Rabbit follows Oswald into the future and takes his dad. He takes over his life as his dad. Then Oswald has to keep going back to Freddy's and rescuing kids and rescuing his dad, and then eventually, depending on which endings you get, either he is kidnapped and killed by Spring Bonnie, by the Pit Bonnie, or whatever you want to call him. He rescues his dad and they move away from Hurricane, or he rescues his dad and they stay in Hurricane, and Jeff, for some reason, gets really popular again. So there's three very different endings, I suppose, and there is also the one where Oswald, if you fail the QuickTime event at the very end of the game, like the last 2 seconds of the game, you fail your QuickTime. There's an ending where I think, and you tell me if you agree or disagree, I think the implication is that Oswald becomes Foxy.
Huh.
So there's this ending where if you fail the QuickTime event, you basically get pulled into the pit, and then you wake up standing on stage as Oswald in the 80s, and Freddy's there, Bonnie's there, Chica's there, and Oswald, as he's walking down the walking from right to left on screen, he is, first of all, he's forgetting his name because his name gets replaced by question marks. He says there's something wrong with his voice. All the animatronics are acting friendly toward him. He doesn't know what they think he is, and then when he gets to the end, he goes, "What am I? What have I become?" And he meets Pit Bonnie standing right in front of Pirate's Cove, and then his eyes flash white, and then the game ends. And that's like one
Oh.
of the endings of the game. And it's such a weird one because it's like, okay, so the MCI has happened, but also we never see them get stuffed. So are these kids actually possessing the MCI in this like ball pit agony realm, or is it just in the same way that Pit Bonnie has been made, have these versions of the Freddy's gang just come to life because of that? Why would Oswald become Foxy? That could be an incorrect interpretation, but the fact that Pit Bonnie is standing in front of Pirate's Cove, and then Oswald goes, "What am I?" and then his eyes lights up. It's a weird connection, I think, for them or a weird decision to make that scene when it's very unclear where that could go. But you were talking about lore at the time versus what it might be now. I wonder if they might take something like that, or a version of the ending like that, and eventually end up working it into a future Mega Cat game where they might start stringing them all a bit closer together, like rather than having them just be, oh, this game and this other game and this other game and none of them are connected. You know, maybe doing a bit more of a Stitch Wraith thing where all of them are being a little more closely aligned, and we might get an answer as to what Oswald becomes in that ending.
Yeah, it feels very like, funnily enough, that kind of image of something like an animatronic or something being quite entertained in front and then someone being an animatronic is so very like Help Wanted and now Secret of the Mimic, is that kind of like vibes of you're in the suit and I'm entertained. It's like, it's such an odd parallel, but it's quite, you can kind of see it.
Yeah, we've got a bit of that going on, and especially because it's like the Pit Bonnie versus the Glitch Trap versus, you know, like we've got this William-esque character turning a kid into an animatronic or something ? It felt like such a strange ending, because all the other ones, they make sense. Either you die, or you don't save your dad, or you save your dad, or, you know, they all kind of make sense. But then that one is like, it feels like almost like a setup for something, you know? It feels like a cliffhanger. And if we don't get the answer to what that is in this game, then it feels like we might get the answer to it in the next game. Now, it could just be, oh, they thought it would be fun, you know, you become an animatronic or a ghost or something, you know, who knows? But it could be interesting if that gets tied into this idea of either the Stitch Wraith or Eleanor or something like that, you know? Because I think they can definitely do a lot with the Frights stories that they're going to adapt, and maybe update them to be a bit more interwoven with one another.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously we'll get into this idea more a bit later, but it kind of reminds me of how in Fran, Bo, and Little Misfortune. Have you seen those at all?
I haven't.
So at the end of Little Misfortune, which is takes place after Frambo, you see like an overlapping character, and it's kind of that link. I could almost see that happening here, of then finding Oswald at the end of the next game, like not expecting it, not thinking that's going to happen at all until you get to some kind of secret ending or secret area, and then they just suddenly like appear. I could definitely see that kind of happening.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I could see that, like if they either, I mean, it'd be really crazy if they made him into Fetch instead of Andrew, or they, you know, something like that. Like they just, you know. But again, they could make it so they can do anything they want, because I've heard some people complain about, like, for example, the Stitch Wraith. There's an Easter egg where the Stitch Wraith appears outside of your window, and I've heard people bashing their heads against walls going like, it doesn't make any sense, because if the Stitch Wraith exists, then it needs to be after 6, but clearly Crash and the gang are still here and they should be burned and blah blah blah, you know, and all these things that people are trying to weave in together with the other games and with the books, and you know. But what I don't get is, this is clearly an adaptation of the original Fright story. This is obviously an adaptation of the Frights stories. So we've got The End of the Pit, we've got stuff with Count the Ways and To Be Beautiful in some of the mini games, and Fetch as well, and we're going to get a Fetch game. And so when things don't line up with the original story, I don't see it as like a mistake or a detail not making sense. It's just that in this version of events, the Stitch Wraith exists before FNAF 6, or in this version of the universe, FNAF 6 doesn't happen, or it happens later, or, you know, we can do it whatever we want with this version of the universe, because in the same way as when they make a new Spider-Man, you know, you don't go, hey, wait a minute, I thought his Uncle Ben already died. You know, we go, yeah, this is a new one. So this is a new Stitch Wraith. This isn't the one from the books. And if you believe it's also in the games, it's not the one from the games. It's its own version. So
yeah.
I know that obviously doesn't line up if people think it is canon, but it's another reason for me where I'm like, I don't think they thought about it like that. I don't think they were trying to fit it in. They were just having a bit of fun with it.
Like, cool Easter egg. That's it. It's just a cool Easter egg.
Yeah. They're like, what if we made players stand in one spot for 25 minutes and then the Stitch Wraith showed up? That'd be funny.
So classic FNAF, though. Stand in this one specific spot, press a specific button, and you get this cool Easter egg.
Oh man, it wasn't even that one that kind of not pissed me off, but the one where you have to go up to the gumball machine and hit it. I think it's like literally like 80 times or something. I saw that and I went, whoever figured that out needs to be institutionalized. There's no way I would ever spend that much time standing at a gumball machine hitting the same button over and over again. I know it comes up with different prompts after time, but like I hit it 3 or 4 times and I went, okay, and then I moved on.
Nothing's
I didn't
there.
bother trying it 10, 20 times.
God, it's such an odd thing to think to have to do this random, like, obviously having the machine there, something was probably meant to happen with it because we can interact with it, but to have to stand there and do it 80 times is such an odd one.
Yeah, it really does feel like, you know, FNAF fans will do anything. We can just put any secret anywhere and they'll find it eventually.
They'll get there.
But it got found like day one. That's the thing I don't understand about these kind of secrets is who's going around. I suppose I became guilty of it then, because when I was playing Secret of the Mimic, I was like, all right, I'm going to try literally everything because I know now that there's a precedent set for just the most crazy things that you just have to do 100 times. Or like in Moon.exe, I thought maybe if you wore the Roxy hat in Secret of the Mimic like 1,000 times, it might do something else. But no, I just wasted a bunch of time doing it.
Brilliant.
But you never know. I'll be right one of these days. Yeah, the funniest thing about those mini games that they included was in the cut versions of them, they all included Vanny in some way, which there's one where she is helping an alive William commit the MCI.
What?
And I'm like, oh my god, like what is that supposed to mean? Like obviously it was cut probably for that reason of it making absolutely no sense. But again, I use it as a bit of evidence to show that they were just throwing stuff at the wall. They were like, oh, it's Vanny. Oh, isn't that crazy? You know, it's like,
I've never heard of that. I did not know that. That's that's crazy.
I think all the ones that ended up being Count the Ways, Fetch, and To Be Beautiful, they all used to be about Vanny. Or Vanny used to be in all of them. And then they changed them to being about, because I think Fetch is where you collect all the balloons. I think that used to be you play as Vanny and you collect balloons or party hats or something like that, but you bring them to William, and it's like, what? Now, unless I fell into a strange dream world where none of what I'm talking about is true, which, you know, who knows, but I'm 99.9% sure that is the case, because that was a part of my video that I was like, if that was in the game, we would have had YouTube videos for like a year, which was like, Vanny did the MCI? How is this true? You know, it breaks the timeline. Like that would have been every video forever. Yeah.
Gosh, I did that.
Vanny's a robot? She existed in 1989? You know, it would have been all that kind of stuff. So that's why I think Scott got them to change them, because it's like, yeah, it doesn't have to be canon, it doesn't have to be accurate, but it can't be so confusing that people think it must be intentional.
Yeah, that was not worth the hassle.
Yeah, just try. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
I have to make a Reddit post about it.
I will say an odd thought though, as you kind of described your timeline, it is really funny that Pit Bonnie not only doesn't just go for Oswald. He spends 5 days pretending to be the dad and only takes opportunities where like no one's there to go after Oswald. That's such an odd and like spiteful thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's Gibby's Horror Homestead. He does breakdowns of all of the books, of all the Fazbear Frights books, and like analyzes them as artistic texts. And he had a really interesting interpretation of the original book, which this is based off, which is that the Pit Bonnie thing is sort of a literary metaphor for abusive parenting, and that it's supposed to be this idea of like the parent figure being replaced by a monster that you don't recognize, but everyone else around you says it's still them, even though you don't recognize them. And I was like, that's a really good reading of it. That's really, really interesting. And then it kind of it's just funny when you then make it into a video game where what is this rabbit up to? Like it becomes less about like less of a metaphor, and it becomes like a crazy monster living in your house. You know, obviously it is in the original story as well, but it's more difficult, I think, to draw those kind of comparisons when you also have to, you know, press X to escape.
When you're spamming the button, you're less like worried about someone being murdered, about being like some deep representation, more help.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was a very interesting reading of the character, or of the story in general, and I think it rings through for each of the different adaptations in one way or another.
I feel like on that note, that's a very good point to kind of discuss. Well, the first kind of big bullet point that is debated still is whether we actually time traveled, whether this was like a kind of fever dream or something where it was actually the dad the whole time, we just thought they were Bonnie, or whether it was like an agony inspired dream. Like there's so many possibilities. What do you personally think is the most likely out of all of them?
So I think, first of all, it's good to establish that I think the ball pit actually works differently in every adaptation of the story. In every version of Into the Pit, the ball pit has a different functionality. Because in some of them it's time travel, in some of them it's agony, in some of them it's a dream. Like, or it could be. There's ways of interpreting them. I think that the best way to look at the one in the game is that we've got a situation where you go into this pit, and the pit has been created most likely as a result of agony in the building, of the MCI, of Eleanor, because we know she exists through those minigames. And it seems, the way I kind of look at it is it's like you go into a separate plane of existence where the old pizzeria is sort of being overlapped on top of the new one, and it is a physical, real space with people that you can talk to and touch, and you can obviously take stuff in and out of it. So it is like a separate place. I don't think it's actually time travel, because then you open up a lot of questions about like, how would Oswald like not create paradoxes and all this kind of stuff. And I think what it's more likely to be is that, like, because some people bring up the fact that you can break a door in the past and then the door in the present is broken. I think that's more about this idea of the two being overlapped over one another, and when something changes in one world, it sort of it is reflected in both versions, and then maybe through agony, weirdness, it can affect the people around it. So when Jeff goes, "Oh, what door? There is no door there," you know, that's because he's being affected by this area. Like, I don't think everywhere in the world, like, I don't think, like, I know you can leave the building as Oswald and like walk down the street, so I don't know if he just is an entirely different universe at that point, or how it works. But there is actually, I suppose, in the Return to the Pit book, you can also leave, and it makes you age really fast.
I heard
and
about
puts
that.
you back in the regular world. So I guess the way I would look at that is, and if we assume there are certain ways that these things work similarly, and in some other ways they work differently, if that carries over in that ending where you can leave the pizzeria, maybe it's a case of the ball pit dimension or reality only exists for a certain radius from outside of Freddy's, and if you leave it manually instead of going through the pit, you sort of like put your body through a very intense experience. Like it's very intensive and damaging to push through that like agony barrier, which is what causes the aging. So it's less about actual time travel. It's just more so that, okay, breaking out of this by not going through the safe path, which is the pit, causes adverse effects for people. But yeah, I think it's a different dimension overlaid on top of the other one, which is based on the memories of the past.
Yeah, and I almost think it kind of opens a debate of it could even be the spirits of the children that are still there, because obviously to do the game you have to stop the children getting killed. Now in theory you're going there 5 separate nights. Like William did it all in like an hour or so. He killed them and put them straight in. It wasn't spaced out initially, so it almost could be that we're letting the spirits go. And but I'm pretty sure from memory we get them out of the pizzeria, right? That's how we do it.
Yeah, well, so this is another interesting thing, is like these kids that we're helping are a different set of kids than William kills. Like these 5 that we rescue are separate to the ones that we see in the party room, and so then rescuing them, but then it becomes a question of like, did William also in real life kidnap 5 kids or trap 5 kids in the pizzeria after killing the MCI? Or was that just an aspect of the ball pit? Or is it something to do with, like, I could see an argument being made that those kids are representative of the MCI, and you're right in that we're actually freeing their souls. And again, if you don't think it's canon, then you don't need to think that they're not, you know, Jeremy and Gabriel and Fritz and Cassidy. Yeah. Like, they can be whoever we need them to be. So in that sense, you could be like, no, these are the kids that are dead, and their ghosts think they're trapped in the building with Oswald, and when we free them, we're sort of freeing their souls, similarly to how we do it in the Return to the Pit book, where we do the Happiest Day arcade game to free them all. But yeah, it's interesting, because like there's also questions of like, okay, if this is based on the memories of the events, did people like run and scream and, you know, drag their kids out of the building when William killed a bunch of people, or did he do it quietly and carefully? Because at least in the other games, it seems to be more so that it was an event which occurred in the shadows. Like, nobody knew about it until it was far too late.
Yeah, until everyone was gone.
Police only. Yeah. So it's like having everyone running and screaming and in hysterics and dragging everyone out of the building, and the police sirens and everything is very different than what we would expect from this kind of event. So yeah. Things are already different. So I suppose these 5 extra kids could be ghosts, they could be the DCI, they could be anything. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, obviously the reason people were running is because the animatronics are freaking out. But at that time, like, it's very reminds me of the original trilogy, because in theory, if they're freaking out like that, they're only going to be freaking out because there's kids in them already or something. Yeah. And then, like, it doesn't line up. But I don't know. I feel like, especially with the Foxy ending, it does feel like we're letting them out, because if that is representative of if you get caught, you are stuck as an animatronic, like you get turned into Foxy, it would make sense that it takes us manually going in to take, you know, the kids out. Like, we have to be there to, because a lot of them are trapped as well, or too scared, and it is very representative of their spirits. Like, if they are forever in fear of this golden rabbit thing, or even don't know they're dead, they just think they're hiding, it very easily could be some kind of narrative where we are just getting them out of the Pizzaplex and getting them, like, out of the fear, out of, like, that whole kind of mindset of just death kind of thing.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because it's... Yeah, because in the books, in the Fazbear Frights books, in the Stitch Wraith stingers, we find out that Eleanor... that the pit is where Eleanor keeps all of her victims' memories. So, like, even the girl from Count the Ways, Millie, is in there. and Jake at the end of the whole arc goes into the ball pit as the Stitch Wraith and like saves all the kids and gives them all their happiest day. So this could be that version of that event where these are other victims of Eleanor or Pit Trap or whoever who Oswald is putting to rest. They just are in the mindset of thinking they are part of this whole thing.
Yeah. And it definitely
reality.
almost reminds me of, because I'm pretty sure in Henry's speech he mentions like the memories of everything that happened here fading away, and by doing that, saying animatronics give up your spirits, and it doesn't, even back then it has that kind of idea of memory, of letting go, letting these memories pass, kind of moving on to a whole new era. I feel like that's definitely kind of linked here. That kind of concept of the memories fading, therefore the spirits can fade, feels very consistent.
Yes, yeah, memory is a hugely important thing in FNAF and in the cosmology and magic system, I suppose, that we have, where memory and feeling around memory can linger and even manifest as either creatures like Pit Trap or spirits or even just by affecting things going on in the world through the field, like we have in Fetch and other stories. So I think it's absolutely spot on to look at this and go, okay, whose memories are we dealing with? Because
who is this?
we're not ourselves, and we don't seem to be anything to do, because I remember it's something I'm surprised hasn't been done in any of the 3 adaptations that we've gotten, but I always expected some sort of link between Oswald and his dad, because in every version he mentions that his dad used to go to Freddy's and was around his age at the time. And so I was always expecting a moment where he looks in his wallet and he finds out that he's got his dad's ID card and he's like inhabiting his dad's body at the time, or he meets his dad and he's his age, or his dad is Mike or Chip or something, because we also never learn his dad's name. So it's like all this kind of stuff, and the identity of the father is something that really isn't gone into in any of the stories, but I'm very surprised, especially with this, like with references to Back to the Future and stuff like that in the story. You'd think that would be at the forefront of the mind. It's like, okay, well, when's he going to meet his dad? Because we're going back in time to when his dad was young. Like, how are we going to wrap that all up in a nice, neat bow? But they never address it. They're like, I don't know, his dad didn't go to Freddy's that day. Or it's not the real past, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, because it'd be kind of cool, actually, if once Pit Bonnie takes the dad into the pit, that the pit is being influenced by his dad's memories of Freddy's. That would have been kind of interesting, and could be kind of cool if that was part of what made everything go a little bit messy. But I don't know, it's just interesting.
I feel like it's not entirely possible that isn't a possibility, purely because, well, if he was there on the day, he would kind of have memories of this. Maybe, like, he was the one that opened the door and saw the murders. Maybe he was the one that saw it. Like, I think it's not outside of the realm of possibility that the reason that when the dad is dragged in, it kind of, like, I don't know, it feels like it could be influencing it. Like, depending if the dad did see all this stuff, it would make sense why we then get to see it, when realistically Oswald knows nothing of this. It's confusing. It's complicated.
Yeah, I mean, in the book as well, it's very strange, because Oswald can, like, manifest stuff, like physical items can appear in his pocket. Like, he goes back and he realizes he doesn't have any money. Yeah, in the original story, he realizes he doesn't have any money, and so he's like, oh man, I can't play any of the arcade games. And then suddenly he reaches into his pocket, and his pocket is filled with tokens, and he's like, oh great, awesome, I guess I can play games now. So it's like, in the book, it's a complete, that's why I say, like, the stories seem to all operate a bit differently, because I don't think they ever do anything where Oswald takes something from the past and brings it into the present. But you do that a couple of times in the game, and then you do it in the Return to the Pit as well. So they all seem to work a little bit differently. I think the Return to the Pit one, to me, the original Into the Pit book is the one where it's most likely that Oswald gets into the pit, passes out, has a big dream, and then gets out of the pit. Because at the end, when he goes to save his dad, he's pushing through all the plastic balls at the end of the pit, and then he just finds his dad at the bottom, just like asleep. He's not in some void or anything. So it's like, I think in that sense, it might be all mental, kind of in your head stuff. But in terms of the game, it seems to be much more like there's a physical place that you get teleported to, which has like living animals, and like you could take a rat from the past and unleash it into the present. I'm like, is that rat just like here now? Did that break the laws of thermodynamics? How did you create that? That rat come from?
It's the magic rat. It's the Ratatouille of FNAF.
The magic rat.
The magic
It's
rat. But yeah, I mean, the other big thing that kind of links into this is what is Pit Bonnie, because obviously he can come out of this reality, and that's the biggest thing, because it literally grabs our arm and has the intelligence to pretend to be our dad as well, which is the oddest thing. Like, why is it doing that? What's the point if it can kill us so easily? Like, and then he keeps following into the pit as well. Like, why not just drag him into the pit and kill him there if you're so desperate to kill? Like, it's so strange.
Yeah, I don't know what his goal is. Like, I don't really understand in any of the versions what Pit Bonnie's want is, because he seems to want to play dad, and he's like driving Oswald to school to the point where even in the original story, is it his dad and Oswald's just gone insane? Like, what's happening? Because he's like driving him to school and stuff, and everything's going fine, and it's very strange. I think in the game we might take it as he is an agony creature created by the same magic that creates the rat or creates the pizzeria or creates whatever. And he is a monster which is driven by, like, I don't know, like the want to hurt or upset, or I don't really know what it's doing, because it doesn't seem to be as set on becoming his dad.
Yeah,
because he seems to want to kill him at night when he goes home, because obviously we have to have it be a threat in game, so it seems to be more like it's, yeah, I don't know, it's I think that might be something that is getting lost in translation from the original story to the game, where in the original story you can kind of look at it like, oh, is this because it's made of something to do with Afton, that he wants to put the family back together and he's trying to take over this guy's life and become his dad, and is there something there about William being father and da 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 da? But then in the game it's like, yeah, but we need Pit Bonnie to try and kill you, so like that kind of then gets lost in translation as to what its motivations are. In terms of its creation, though, I think it is like a being of pure agony taking the form of the monster that created all of that terrible all those terrible actions back in the past.
I feel like a big thing of it as well is that no one can recognize that this is the dad. That everyone is like, yeah, that's the dad. Like, he's just driving by down the street and no one's looking over thinking, it's a bit strange.
Yeah. Like, yeah, again, in terms of how the pit works, it becomes a question of, because in the original you could argue, oh, maybe it's the pit, or he was in the pit from the start. I think that is definitely the case in Return to the Pit, the interactive novel. I think once Oswald gets into the pit, he doesn't leave it until maybe the very end of the game, because like, in that story you can run out the door and go across the road and knock on your neighbor's door, and then Chico will come to the door, and you're like, what? It's modern day. Why is Chico in my neighbor's house? And I think that's just everything in that book is in the pit, whereas this game seems to be more so implying that it's two separate spaces that you're going between, unless we wanted to take it and say that it is all of a dream going on in Oswald's head, and that can explain why the door breaks in the future, or why he can bring the rat into the present, or why the Pit Bonnie can do all this stuff. It's just all of it's working in a dream. But if it's not that, and it is just a creature coming out, I guess in the books Eleanor can also disguise herself, so it might just be a property of agony that it can manipulate perception of other people, and it chooses not to with Oswald, or Oswald is immune to it for some reason.
I mean, there's quite a common theory going around. I think it might have been even Rye Toaster brought it up, but is the idea that the suit was just in the pit and became inflicted with agony, which I think is kind of a funny concept, because that meant that Afton killed the kids and then thought the best place to hide the suit was in the ball pit. I think I can understand it
That's an
being the
interesting
suit.
idea.
Yeah, like I can definitely see it being the suit. Like if it is the actual suit that's been inflicted with agony, I think that's a possibility. But it being hidden in the pit for so long, like if it was just in a ball pit, is just so odd.
Yeah. So again, this will come back to where you stand on if it's part of the other games or not, or if you can take the other games into account or not. Because my immediate response is, well, no, the suit that he killed the MCI with is in the safe room and is locked in the safe room.
Yeah,
and
with him in it.
the implication is that it's there. Yeah, it's there until he gets spring locked. But I suppose you could argue, like in this version of reality, where it's not necessarily beholden to the other games, and there doesn't even seem to be a safe room. There actually was a recreation of the FNAF 3 safe room in the game, which got cut, which is also, to me, part of the, like, they're not trying to make it line up. Yeah, because even like the camera system, which in this game, in the game that came out, just shows the map, like the regular map, at one point had images from the FNAF 1 cameras. And it's like, wait. So you are trying to make them line up, but then the fact that they took those out and took out the safe room, to me, says, no, they were doing that maybe at one point, but they're not anymore. But I suppose, yeah, you could say that this is the physical suit. I don't know if it's necessary to say that, though, because it would obviously just be a physical suit plus the biology anyway, because it has to have teeth and gums and eyes, and it still has to be plus an agony creature anyway. So I don't see why it has to be the physical suit if you can manifest stuff like rats or arcade machine pieces or whatever. I don't see why they need to be a one-to-one in that way.
I feel like the only other kind of like big thing is in that one ending where we drop the photo of William and Henry and it actually recognizes William. Like I feel like that is like a big clue as to what's going on here, because it's intelligent enough that it knows, okay, I'm Pit Bonnie, but also I was this person once upon a time. And I feel like that's very interesting, and I feel like quite integral into figuring out what on earth Pit Bonnie actually is.
That's very true, yeah, because actually, yeah, if you're thinking about it from the point of view of Pit Bonnie is just, the reason it's like a monster with razor sharp teeth is because it's the manifestation of how the children viewed it before it killed them. But then you have to wonder, well, the children didn't know who he was, right? So why would it, if it is just a manifestation of their beliefs, why would it remember who William was and who Henry was? So I suppose there could be something there about, depending on where William is at this point in the series, if he's alive or dead or haunted or not or whatever. Yeah. Maybe there's an argument to say that this is a part of William's soul, which is trapped in the pit.
Yeah. I feel like, as well, though, now that I think about it being William, it's entirely possible that the Pit Bonnie is only killing at night because that's what the kids saw. They saw this like kind of fun animatronic in the daytime. He's friendly, he's cool, but at nighttime, that's when he killed. Because that could almost be why he acts like that, because he's like, okay, I'm William, I'm this is how the kids saw me. Everyone loves me in the daytime. I'm a dad, I'm this. At night, I kill people. So that could also be part of the motivation.
That's really good. I really like that. Yeah, that the behavior of Pit Bonnie is particularly influenced by the fact that it's based on how the kids saw it. So it was good in the day and bad at night. That's really good. I like that.
Oh, thank you.
There is more to do with it being related to William in some way, because we also have that weird secret room that it takes the dad to. That is where we ended up finding the dad. And it's like, I think in the files it's called like Killer Workshop or something like that. And it's got like Garrett's plane in there. It's got the Balloon Boy figurine from the movie. It's got a couple of different things. And it also has a picture of Henry and William from the Silver Eyes graphic novel on the wall. Like, more of those great, totally intentional continuity.
Totally accurate.
choices. Yeah. But I think that's also showing you that this has something to do with William, because it's using his layer, I suppose. It's using his offices and his equipment to do stuff. I don't even know what his goal is in terms of what he wants to do with Oz's dad. Like, why does he keep him alive?
It's just so strange because, again, you're right. Like, he doesn't kill Oswald's dad, and he's obviously the manifestation of what the kids saw, but also at the same time, he is part William. So it's almost like it might just be, you know, like the agony of everything. It's just the agony of. Well, I don't know. William didn't really feel agony then. He was quite happy, but kind of like the agony of the kids, or the agony of, like, I don't know, maybe he stubbed his toes, he killed the kids and was like, dang, and that's what kind of did it. It's just such an odd one, because if it is agony, was it? Yeah.
I guess if we go with, because there is the party room in which the kids are killed, the MCI are found in the past, which is boarded up in the future, which we can't get into. And if we go by the original series' rules, which I'm not saying they're one-to-one, but if we kind of take a similar thought process for them, we have a situation where William in the original killed the MCI in the safe room, and then years later, after Freddy's is closed, comes back and is spring-locked in the safe room where he killed the kids. So potentially in this universe, we could also have it be the case where William kills the kids in the party room, and then years later comes back and gets spring-locked in the party room, which is boarded up. So potentially William is actually currently in Jeff's Pizza. Like, his body is maybe here, spring-locked in the party room where he killed those kids in the present day, which could be seeping into the it could be seeping into the whole building and the pit and everything. So it could potentially have a part of William be a part of Pit Bonnie, or it could be his agony from being spring-locked, or it could be whatever, because that maybe is why it reacts to the photo of him and Henry, as it's remembering, like, oh, I am more than just Springtrap. I am William Afton.
And I feel like it definitely could depend on desires, because, like, earlier you were talking about the concept of William just wanting his family and kids back. I could almost see, again, not attacking at day, but attacking at night could almost be him trying to get rid of Oswald, because, you know, Oswald's the only one that knows that, you know, he's evil, but everyone else sees him as normal. So I feel like there's definitely so many avenues you could go down. Is like, maybe Pit Bonnie is only attacking Oswald because he doesn't want anyone to know. Maybe he's not attacking because that's how the kids saw him. Maybe it's like, it's interesting, because I don't think in typical FNAF style there's not any definitive answers at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit up in the air, and that's why I would hope, and I am excited to see what Mega Cat does in the future, and I would hope that they might actually have more of a continued story from game to game, so it's not just, you know, oh, the Into the Pit game and the Fetch game have nothing to do with each other. I would love some little element, like, even if it's just that Eleanor is Pit Bonnie and she's pretending to be William for some reason. Even if we get to see that and we know that for sure, and we get to learn a bit about her motivations, then we can kind of look back on Into the Pit and go, oh, that's why she did this and did that and whatever, you know. I'm pretty sure in the like launch trailer for the game, or one of the trailers that came out just before the game, there was dialogue from Eleanor. It was like her speaking about do you know what you want, or something. I think it's one of the things from the original story. So even though in the final game she only shows up as an 8-bit sprite, I think they have plans for her to be more important from the beginning, rather than like in the original Stitch Right Stingers, where she was in one story, didn't show up for like 8 books, and then showed up as a Deus Ex villain and just kind of jumped in and was like, all right, I'm going to be that guy now, and gone. And then
I'm the bad guy.
Immediately took over. Yeah.
For people listening, do you just want to like really briefly clarify what Eleanor is? Because obviously not all people aren't always in the book lore, so if you want to give like a rough kind of concept.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's assuming I know what Eleanor is, which is a bold assumption. Yeah, so Eleanor is this strange character from the books, which essentially appears as a very spindly version of Circus Baby, kind of, where she's got like red pigtails and rosy cheeks and this porcelain white skin, and she's kind of clownish themed. And she seems to be, from what we can tell, a manifestation of agony. And I believe, it's been a while since I read those stingers, but I believe she's either the creation of or the manifestation of the agony of one of the doctors in the series. There's Talbot and Taggart. I don't know why they gave them such similar names. It freaks me out every time I have to talk about both of them because I can never remember which. But one of them lost their daughter and then I think created Eleanor as a result of that. And she's just this demonic force that wants to collect as much pain and agony as possible. And she can do a load of, like, she can create little universes and she puts all her victims into the pit, and she can change how she looks, and she creates stuff with Remnant, and she can do a lot. So it's a lot going on with Eleanor. But yeah, she's the villain of the second ever Fright story called To Be Beautiful, where she gives a little girl a locket that will make her beautiful, and it turns out that the locket is actually slowly turning her into animated garbage, which falls apart at the end of the story. But she then disappears because she was just the villain for that one story. Then she's not in the story for ages, and then she just shows up out of nowhere and is like, I'm back, and now I'm the main villain because I think the story was planned out of order. And then she just goes into it. But yeah, she's interesting. A lot of people love her as like a big bad antagonist for this franchise.
She's a fun one. She definitely, again, kind of embodies what FNAF kind of is, oh, dead child, possession. Wow, it's very much that kind of like core FNAF concept. So, yeah, thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, I find her interesting because she's one of the few examples, I think, of and I suppose she might be the only example, I'm trying to think if there's other ones, but of a purely, and I don't mean this in trying to forgive anything that any other characters have done, but as in, like, metaphysically, she is pure evil.
Yeah.
Like, she isn't a human being with thoughts and emotions and loves and fears and blah, blah. Like, she is formed out of pain and just wants to inflict pain. Like, she's a demon, essentially, created by people. And that's very interesting, I think, to have as an antagonist, where William, of course, is evil and of course is morally reprehensible and blah 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 blah, but he is human, so he has flaws and things that he enjoys and things that he whatever. It doesn't excuse anything, but of course it makes him more
human.
Exactly. And she is just this completely metaphysical force of terrible wrath and anger and violence. And it's interesting to have that kind of character alongside your other human characters. And I would kind of like them to tackle that in some way in a future game or story. A bit more maybe than they got to with her showing up so late in the Fright series.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's something that can be tackled in future. I don't think in the current like main games, I don't think, purely because Mimic, I wouldn't say is purely evil. I think he's definitely a complicated character, which we can kind of discuss later. But I feel like he's not necessarily agony. He's his own complex thing, I think.
Yeah, unless we're gonna go for some crazy twist where it turns out that Fiona Mimic isn't actually Fiona. It's like some sort of demonic entity that's taken over the Mimic virus, and it's like pretending to be Fiona to wreak havoc. Unless we do some crazy twist like that, I don't think we're going to deal with that sort of character in this current era until it's over and moved on with. But we can see that definitely being done in the Mega Cat game. Just as it stands, I don't think they're in continuity with the other ones, which is fine.
Yeah. Which, Mega Cat has its own kind of storyline. That's quite nice, so.
Hey, as long as it's good, as long as it's enjoyable.
As long as they're cooking. So I feel like the only other big kind of lore bit in this game was the Freddy mask falling from the attic, because obviously by this point we had Help Wanted 2, I believe, so we had the Bonnie mask, so this was kind of really interesting because now we had the Bonnie mask, the Freddy mask. Like, do you think there is actually symbolism here about the bullies and how people, it's kind of like the concept of the past coming forward?
I do think there's symbolism about the past coming forward, but I don't think the Freddy mask is supposed to be indicative of Oswald's dad's identity. A lot of people, and I think it was purely because Help Wanted 2 in this game came out so close together, and the Bonnie mask was something that the community really latched onto as like, oh my god, he's got to be the Bonnie bully, that's crazy, this is huge.
Yeah.
The only reason then that the Freddy mask seemed important was because of that Bonnie mask. I genuinely think that because of the nature of every other Easter egg in these games, or in this game, is a reference to something else. I think that is most likely a reference to the story You're the Band, where a kid gets a Freddy mask and becomes possessed, and it's like the main feature of that story is a Freddy mask, and I'm almost certain there's something to do with an attic in that story as well, or it's in one of the Stitch Rate Stingers. An attic is important.
Yeah.
So I see it more so that the dad is not. It's not trying to relate him to the bullies or anything like that. It's just pure coincidence that a Freddy mask is an image which, like, it's not given enough importance to me, nor are we given enough reason to believe that Oswald's dad had anything to do with the bite, and there's no real important imagery connecting those two things, because both of those things are referenced in this game, but neither like the dad is important in the game and the bite of 83 is referenced a couple of times, but neither are the two are never really drawn connections between them, except for maybe if you think this mask might mean that.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, even like in Help Wanted 2, I don't think the Bonnie mask was even necessarily to be the Bonnie bully, because my personal theory is that Cassie's dad is potentially the sibling of the MCI Bonnie, and that's where the whole Remember Jeremy symbolism comes in. And I think that I can definitely see it's kind of like that with the one in Mega Cat, that it's just maybe a reference to the past, or just the concept that they were there and that they have links to the past. Like, obviously, with the Cassie's dad, it's possibly the link that, you had a brother that died there. And the other one is you were just there at the time, and you might have been there on that day. Like, maybe you could have died on that day if you weren't careful. So,
yeah, I think, obviously, it being in the attic, we should be able to look at that and go, okay, well, why does it in the attic of their house? Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, used to be a fan of the franchise. I think it's also good to note that it is a mechanic. Like, that is a way of skipping another part in the game later on. Like, it is a kind of a reward for people that are paying attention and get that, which is something that I missed out on in the game. So, there's a couple of reasons for it to be there that don't have to be, because a lot of the time when it comes to theorizing, if there's a piece of evidence, I try and come at it from the point of view of, why is this in the game? And most of the time, there is a reason for it to be there that isn't just like trying to confirm my crackpot theory. But if I can't find any other reason for it to be the way it is beyond an explanation which links to what I'm currently thinking about, and I admit that can be flawed, and I obviously can't think of everything. But if I can't think of something, then I'll go, okay, maybe this has some more weight to it. But there's about 4 or 5 different reasons I can think that Freddy mask is in the attic, and the bite of 83 thing is so far down on that list, and it's only because people were already thinking that with the Bonnie mask. And I agree that I don't even think the Bonnie mask was supposed to say that in Help Wanted 2. So I already am against the idea that we're trying to tell this story. And if you don't think this game is in continuity, then there's definitely no way that this is a different universe's version of the Bonnie bully, which is unrelated. Like, why would we need to know about this version of the Bite of 83?
Cassie's dad is just him too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's makes perfect sense to be there without it also being trying to tell us that his dad was for some reason also related to the Bite of 83, but they don't ever talk about it ever.
Yeah. So, although it is quite funny to me that like the dad lets his son go in this place where kids have died. He knows kids have died, but it's like, oh, it's fine. Just go anyway. It's
Yeah,
cheap.
he's like, Jeff's good. Jeff's chill. He's fine.
Yeah, we like Jeff.
Yeah, good on Jeff.
What is the game lore now?
Well,
Yeah.
I think that Bonnie, the mask one is a big one, because I think over time I've seen less people kind of grabbing onto that, you know, the idea of the mask being super important. The idea of the game itself being in continuity, that's another thing which I've seen fallen out of popularity, which was definitely very popular at the time when it came out. Like, that was the immediate assumption. And I think over time people have come around on the idea of it not being. Not saying that it definitely is or isn't, but people have definitely been more convinced of the idea that it might not be in continuity than when the game came out. I suppose in terms of changes as to what it... See, changes, I would look at that as like if we were talking about FNAF 4, right? And it's like, what changes about FNAF 4 after its dislocation? Everything, you know.
Yeah.
But this game sort of being on its own little corner, it's hard to say what may or may not have changed, because we have yet to kind of see that follow-up. Though I will admit that Return to the Pit, I guess, is the closest thing we have to a follow-up in terms of that book being another adaptation. And I think something that I would argue is more likely than when people were talking about this game being in canon, and like the differences between the two versions and the differences between these and the games, and like some people were waving away some of them, like, oh, it doesn't really matter that this is different and whatever, it's you know, it's not important, you know, only the big stuff is important. In Return to the Pit, which sort of solidified my idea that this game wasn't in continuity, in Return to the Pit they make a lot of changes very intentionally that make it align with the original games. So like, we have 5 kids in the room instead of 6. We have them die in a safe room instead of in a party room. They explain what happens to Jeff's and Freddy's so that when Phone Dude in 3 is talking about going to the safe room, it makes sense, because they say that half of Freddy's became Jeff's and the other half became Derelict, which is presumably where Phone Dude would go during the events of FNAF 3 to find Springtrap. So those, to me, indicated that at least Return to the Pit is trying to line up. Like, they're trying to make it align with the games. So that, to me, told me that Scott at least cares a little bit about those details in his adaptations, if he's trying to say something about them, because otherwise I wouldn't see why just one of 3 versions is more accurate than the other 2. I don't see what the point would that be, unless you were looking at continuity.
I feel like the big thing with FNAF theories as well is you kind of have to latch on to every information you get before you break it down. And when Into the Pit first came out, everyone was quite fixated on what potential evidence we could have for the main lines, and kind of getting that kind of like videos and ideas out based on that. But I feel like as more time has gone on, pretty much everyone's coming out of like the idea, everyone's kind of realized that everything from Into the Pit we can't really rely on. It's not exactly canon. So I think that's one big thing that has changed, at least in the community, is everyone is moving away from the idea that it's canon, and it means that everyone is kind of stepping away from the theories, because I think there was definitely some good theories coming out, and I definitely think potentially, especially now you've mentioned the Vanny segments, I think there's definitely stuff that we can take from this potentially into canon. Maybe there's like some information there, even about agony and the existence of agony, how it works. I think there are stuff we can take from it, but I don't think that we should be taking this as canon.
Yeah, I don't think we can look at this, for example, and say, oh, well, it's confirmed now that in 1985 there were 6 kids that were killed in a party room, and then the police, like, even if you think the game is canon, the way the game tells its story, you're already dealing with a bunch of stuff where it's like, okay, but is this actually what happened, or is it a memory, or is it agony, or is it whatever? So it's really hard, regardless, to take anything that isn't the modern day story of Oswald going to school and kind of tying that in. But even then, you've got stuff like the Stitch Wraith, and is that going to be a part of the games, or is that going to be just a part of the Mega Cat games? I think for now, based on what we have, it's either a really poorly aligned game that's supposed to be in continuity, and we're going to find out what impact it will have in the future, or it's just going to be set in its own continuity, and that's fine. And I honestly would prefer it that way, because I really liked the game. I thought it was really fun, and there's nothing about it to me that would be improved if it were part of the original canon, you know, unless in the next game they really want to put the elbow grease in and really make sure it aligns, you know, to every single detail and work really closely with Scott to do that. Then I'd be okay with some of the changes in this, or the inconsistencies in this. But I see it more likely that Scott, based as well on how he talked about it, how he talked about the development cycle, which I suppose is something you could say changes our perspective of this game, considering we've heard now his opinions on it and his takes on it. Him saying that, like, he would go away for months, or he would go for months without hearing from Mega Cat, and then would randomly get a phone call one day and they'd be like, hey, want to see the latest build? And it would be twice as big as the last time he saw it and have 100 million different things that he hadn't planned for. It doesn't to me sound like the type of thing Scott was planning to be a part of his magnum opus, you know, series that was 100% going to fit in canon and be perfectly aligned with everything. I think that sounds to me like he wanted to make a fun side game that wasn't important, and then he went away and it kind of ballooned and became bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it just showed up on his doorstep one day pretty much fully formed, and he went, all right, yeah, you can come in, you can just be a spin-off, that's fine.
Yeah, go off then, go off.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I feel like, I don't think the game lore has changed much. I think community's perception of it has changed, which is interesting, but yeah, in general, I don't think it's changed. How does this affect the future of the games? I think the only thing that intrigues me that could potentially affect the mainline games is the fact that you said that Vanny was originally in the minigames. And I almost wonder obviously Vanny wasn't there at the time, but I almost wonder, was there potentially something there, perchance, that might have been like, I don't know, were we meant to take something from that, or...
See, I looked at that. Now, maybe there is, and I'm not going to say, oh no, definitely not. Maybe there is some sort of indicator of, maybe that was something Scott wanted to put in and then changed his mind and took it out or something. I don't know. But what that kind of screams to me, based on the other Easter eggs that we have and the other cut content, like, for example, there was a minigame where the puppet was in Oswald's basement. It's like, wait, why would the puppet be in his basement? And it's just like, I think the way Mega Cat looked at this was, all right, where can we put in an Easter egg? Where can we put in a thing connected to the other games? Oh, what if we do a minigame? You're playing as Vanny and you're going around and you're helping out William. Like, that'd be kind of cool. Or what if the puppet was in the basement? Because there's a load of old stuff in his basement. So what if the puppet was in there? Or what if the safe room from FNAF 3 was in the, you know, what if there's a Circus Baby poster on the wall? And all this kind of stuff that eventually ended up being taken out. Even to the point where actually there was there might still be in the game somewhere, but there was a shelf with the mediocre melodies, like costume pieces in the game. And I don't know if it was taken out, I don't know if it's still in the game, but if it was taken out, it's interesting that Secret of the Mimic gives us some very clear origins to the mediocre melodies. And if Scott was potentially going, take that out because we're about to tell them in like a year.
Yeah,
we're gonna tell them
we
where
have
they
the
all
answers.
came from. Yeah, don't confuse them by making them part of Freddy's, and then later on we're gonna say they're definitely Freddy's. You know, don't make it all weird. So to me, I think the Vanny stuff was probably an aspect of Mega Cat just going, yeah, Vanny, she's in the new games. People always want her to be, you know, more important. What if we just put her in as like a mini game thing? That'd be kind of fun. It's 10 years. We're celebrating every era of the franchise. And then Scott came along and went, you have no idea what this will do. You don't know, you sweet
Damage
summer
control.
child. This will destroy everything. Get rid of it. So I could imagine that being an aspect of it. But maybe there's an aspect of it where Scott was planning something and then changed his mind. But regardless, it's another chapter in Vanny being cut from a game before release.
Poor
Vanny. In
Vanny.
that saga. Poor Vanny. She never
Going
gets in
through
any
it.
game she's supposed to be in.
Oh, but yeah, I feel like, although I will say it will be quite funny because obviously this episode's not releasing until like mid-August. So I will say if it's quite funny for the FNAF 11th anniversary, we suddenly get like a new Mega Cat game, or we suddenly get like, you know, some new trailer or like some confirmation. That would be very funny because everyone watching back would be like, oh, what are they talking about? What?
Yeah, why are they not talking about Fetch? We see Fetch we see Vanny in the Fetch trailer. What are you talking about?
Vanny's getting here. What?
Hopefully not.
No,
Hopefully not.
yeah. I mean, so because obviously there's not much talk about like Into the Pit specifically, what do you think the future of the games roughly is gonna be? Like, do you think? Because like personally, I think we're gonna get a DLC, Security Breach 2, and then we're done. But what do you kind of think is our plan forward now?
Yeah, I think what we'll probably have is, so in terms of the Steel Wool games, yeah, definitely either a DLC for Secret of the Mimic, or just they'll straight up go into a full VR release or something like that. I think there will be an interim game between Secret of the Mimic and the next quote unquote like big AAA game, you know, in the way that we had Help Wanted 2 between Reewyn and this. And you know, I wonder if we'll have some sort of stopgap game or DLC between the two. But I agree, yeah, whatever our next game is will most likely be the last of this current era. Because I've heard people say, like, oh, I can't wait to get the Fall Fest game, or I can't wait to get the Fredbear's Family Diner game. And we did the prequel. We're not going to do another game away from Cassie and Gregory and Vanny and everything. Cause in terms of your keeping up your momentum for your story, I think doing another prequel game would just be a killer. Like, they've done their prequel stuff. They stuffed this game with so much prequelitis, you know, like, here's an explanation for everything in the series, go. That's, to me, an indicator that they're not looking to keep going in the past. Like, maybe someday in the far future, we'll get another prequel game, we'll get something to do with Fredbear's, or we'll get something to do with Fall Fest or whatever. I think they've said what they wanted to say about Fall Fest, and you know, because Carnival was the thing that everyone thought was the secret code word for the Fall Fest game. Yeah. But it was this game. This is the game called Carnival in the files. So, like, unless there's a super duper secret game that we have no idea exists, I think this is the big prequel, and then the next game will be the finale to our current era. In terms of the Mega Cat games, I think we'll probably get one every couple of years. We'll get like a Fetch, and that'll maybe tide us over while we're waiting for the next Steel Wool game, and then we'll get. I don't think we'll go in order. Like, I don't think we'll go like into Fetch, whatever the third book is. Can't even remember. But I think it'll be the highlights, because I know someone was doing an exercise. I can't remember who it was. I was watching someone do an exercise of like, what Fazbear Fright stories would be good games, like what would actually make a good story, and you can adapt them in any way you want to make them into a good game, but you know, based on what's in the stories there. I'm trying to think of what would be. Is there any particular Fazbear Fright story that you'd like to see adapt? I'm turning it back on you now. I've got questions for you.
Throw back at me.
Yeah.
So I do have limited knowledge of the Fazbear Frights, but there is one I can't bring to my head that I always found quite interesting. Let me just Google the names, because there is one that like I remember I quite liked.
Full disclosure, that's why I asked you, because I could not remember any of the names. That's why I was like, I'll throw it at you, see if you know more about it than I do.
Yeah, I do have limited knowledge on it, but I definitely think
the Breaking Wheel, which is an interesting book, which is the one with. I don't think that's more of like a horror short, though. I don't think you'd get much out of that. Bunny Call, maybe. Would they do a Bunny Call?
I mean, what I don't actually remember what step close it is, but judging by the color has Foxy, I could see us maybe going along the lines of Foxy or something.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be a cool way to follow up the Oswald ending.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Step Closer Foxy is a different Foxy than the MCI one, as far as I know in that story. I think it's one of the Andrew Agony, Eleanor Agony creature things. So it could that could be a cool way of doing that. Yeah, I wonder how. See, so many of the Fright stories are like, thing happens at Freddy's, character leaves and just lives a regular life for the rest of the book, and then comes back to Freddy's in the last 5 pages, and something bad happens to them. Like, there's a lot of in between, which isn't very interactive.
I mean, based on the wiki,
I wonder if we.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Okay.
You go ahead. Sorry. I wonder if we could do something. So like, Coming Home is the one about Chica, but again, that's kind of just like a sad story about how her family are depressed that their daughter's dead. So I don't know if that's already like a action-packed side scroller. But maybe something like a Dance with Me or something, because I could see them doing a Circus Babies game, like letting us see what Circus Babies is like. And Dance with Me might actually be a good one, because that's the one where you've got those holographic glasses that lets the character see Ballora, and she's like dancing, and I believe they say in that story that those glasses come from Circus Baby's Pizza World. So it could be interesting if we then have sort of like a Reewyn style, and we could even, you could use similar-ish mechanics to Into the Pit, where you've got the real world and then you've got the world with those glasses on, and you can see different stuff, and you kind of got like the Reewyn Vanny Network style tie-in there. That could be a cool one to do. I think that would be interesting. You'd probably have to beef it up a lot more and have more happening, but the idea of having these glasses which you can put on and go into another world where you're in danger of being attacked by Ballora, that could be a cool story.
I feel like it's consistent with the first one as well, consistent with Into the Pit of going into this other world. I feel like they definitely could now link it. Instead of it being these glasses, you're actually going into some Agony world, and maybe that's where you find Oswald as well, or something.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, so Step Closer would be a good one. Dance at Me. Coming Home is the Chica one. I'm just looking at all the stories now.
I mean, the one
the New Kid.
Oh, I've heard of that
one. Would be
one.
a great one.
Yeah.
That's the one where there's a new kid at school, and he takes these 2 kids that he makes friends with to an old abandoned Freddy's, and it's like Golden Freddy is there, and it turns out that there's a joke on a lot of T-Dread streams, which is Kelsey is a projection, because one of the other guys, Shizu, who was on, said that one time, and it was out of context, and everyone lost their minds about what he meant by that. But I think what he meant was like Golden Freddy is Kelsey, but is creating a projected personality in this kid. But you could do loads with that, and then you'd have your connection to Golden Freddy, and that'd be great iconography to use. So that could be a cool one.
I could see that. I mean, as you were mentioning Foxy before, so interestingly enough, they do describe him on the wiki as have glowing eyes, which when Oswald's ending, his eyes glow is interesting. And also, he happens across multiple stories. Like, in Step Closer, he obviously supposedly curses people. His disembodied arm is in what we found, and then in Stitch Wraith, he's used to build the Stitch Wraith. So if we are building up to potentially having a Stitch Wraith kind of final game, I could definitely see us seeing the different animatronics across games. Like if we have Foxy's arm goes in there, like other parts.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I could see that we're kind of building our our Stitch Wraith Avengers, where we're eventually going to end up with them all in the final story coming together and becoming part of this Afton amalgamation thing. I mean, is Man in Room 1280, is that a good game? I don't know what you would do for that game, because I could see it in the art style. Yeah, it's like they'd really have to beef up the plot, I guess you could argue the same thing they did for Into the Pit, where it originally was just he went there, something bad happened, he left, and then he went back in and helped his dad. Whereas they added in this whole thing of going in and out of the pit over the course of 5 days or 5 nights. So I suppose you could do something with that with the Man in Room 1280, where you play as the priest, and you're maybe trying to stop Andrew from doing stuff, or you're interacting with the nurses, and you have to, I don't know, it could be something there. I'd imagine if they want to do the Stitch Wraith story, then the Man in Room 1280 would be an important one to touch on, at least.
I think it'd be a mini game, to be honest, kind of like how the other ones work. I could easily seeing it being like the Foxy Go 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 one, where you walk in multiple times, and the final time maybe was delivering medicine, and then the final time you just see like a sprite of a kid next to it, something, and the game crashes or something.
That's cool. Yeah, you could be playing as the nurses who are trying to kill Afton, and like one of them goes in with a pillow, and one of them goes in with the syringe, and one of them goes in with what, because they try and kill him a couple of times in that story.
Yeah, it was just
you could
like
do that, and then the
free
last
him.
one is Andrew is there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Or you play as a different person each time you go through, and the third time you go as the priest, and he explodes. whatever happens in that story.
Yeah, maybe you like see the kid, and then it goes kind of like how in the mini games where like the tears get bigger. It's just his head gets bigger, and then just do.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be cool. I've heard about. I actually don't know anything about Blackbird, but I've heard that's a good story, so that could potentially be a good one. Hide and Seek. Oh yeah, that's the one with Shadow Bonnie. I could see that. I don't know. I feel like that. How many of these Mega Cat games do you think we'll get? Like, do you think it'll be a couple more? A few? What do you think we'll just get? Like 25 of them? Are they just gonna keep making them forever? Like, they can't make a million of these things.
We're going to get multiple, I think, but I think what's also going to happen is kind of like how Into the Pit we saw other books through minigames. I think we're going to have a couple of the main story, and then the rest of the books are going to be featured in minigames, so we get majority of the series. I think that's kind of going to be the structure of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think we kind of went over the ones that I'd imagine are more likely to be adapted, and then maybe a Stitch Wraith game. Like a proper, like full game where you're just doing the whole Stitch Wraith story from beginning to end.
Yeah, I think I almost wonder if we're going to get like multiple games and then have multiple of that specific Oswald ending. Like there's multiple of those endings, and then it all comes together in one big Stitch Wraith finale, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, that makes sense. That would be cool. Yeah, I can also see them just treating it like, this game did well, we'll make another one. This game did well, we'll do another one. Until they stop being successful.
Yeah.
But I don't imagine that happening anytime soon. So maybe we'll get 10 of these games.
20.
20. Yeah, we'll just get every single Fazbear Fright story, even Into the Flesh or whatever it's called. We'll get that. Everything.
No, sea bunnies.
Yeah, sea bunnies, everything, and then we'll do Tales from the Pizza Place.
Oh no. Yeah. Gush about the game.
I really enjoyed the game at the time. I think I shot myself in the foot a little bit by going into it with that idea of potentially going through it the whole, thinking big canon thing, and we were going to learn loads of stuff. And yeah, I think sometimes I do that to myself, as I make up my own thing before I go in as to what I'm expecting it to be, and then I'm let down because obviously nothing is going to turn out to be the exact version you had in your head.
Yeah.
But I will say I really enjoyed the game. I love the art style. I love the music. The presentation I think is really strong. I think a lot of the time my biggest gripes with the game were in the... It's been a while since I played it, but I think it was the general gameplay loop. To me, was a little bit frustrating at times. It did feel a little bit like, okay, yeah, he spotted me, and now I gotta run, and I gotta just like find a hiding place, and then I hide in the hiding place, and I do the little mini games that like the spiders coming down, and I have to swat them away.
Yeah.
And then he leaves, and I get out, and I walk out. Oh no, Chica saw me. Okay, I have to go run hide somewhere else.
Whoa.
There was a lot of that like back and forth of. I don't know. I find games where the majority of it is waiting for a character to leave a room. And Secret of America have the exact same criticism of.
Oh, I agree.
Get in a locker and wait for the character to leave is my least favorite type of gameplay, because it just requires me to take my hands off the keyboard to do anything.
Yeah.
I think there were certain times, like certain puzzles and stuff like that maybe didn't make a whole lot of, like the rat one. The reason I kept bringing it up, that's the one that sticks out to me the most, is you go into the pizzeria in the present day, into Jeff's, and there's a woman there, and she's on the phone, and she says blah 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 blah. Oh, it's like I think I saw a rat. I nearly screamed, and I had the rat trap already, so I was like, oh, okay, so I gotta go find where this rat is. She just saw it somewhere, so I gotta go find this rat. But then I looked around the whole pizzeria. I couldn't find it, so I went outside. I couldn't find it. I went up the road. I didn't know where this rat was, and I thought I'd searched everywhere, and so I ended up having to look up a guide, and it turned out that the rat was in the past, and I was like, that's not a good hint to tell me that the rat is in the 80s. Like, surely the rat would be where she said she saw it. Like, I thought a good setup for that puzzle would have been if she had said, oh, I remember when this place used to be crawling with rats when I was a kid, and then you go, oh, okay, so the rat. There was a couple of little mini games like that which required the back and forth between the present and the past, which I kind of maybe wish there was a bit more depth to them, or something that maybe you had to do in the past to set up something in the future, but beyond just running into a room and pressing a button or unscrewing something or whatever and then coming back.
Yeah.
But again, that all being said, I did really enjoy the presentation and the overall vibe of the game, and I think, considering the way Scott talked about the development, that it started as this really small thing and then became this juggernaut of a project, I'm really excited to see what Megacat does with the next game, considering they're going to start from a point where they know that's what they're kind of aiming towards.
Yeah.
You know, they're actually headed in that direction from day one, rather than building it up and up and up and up over the course of many years, which I'm sure can lead to certain things not being as fully fleshed out as you might want them to be.
Yeah, I think that was my only gripe in the games, is I found that his loops were annoying. Like, I mean, it made good clips, but when I was coming out of vent, okay, he's done, and he's just walked back in the room. It was really annoying, like, especially how it happened to quite a few people. So when you go through the vents on that first night and you meet the person in the lobby, it's really common for some reason for pit traps to suddenly appear in there, go at you, but then the cutscene just starts. Like, I think there was definitely some cleaning up they need to doing. But overall, I think just the art style, the style of the game, it was generally really fun to play, and it wasn't like too lore heavy, but it was still, oh hey, look at this cute bit of lore. I thought it was quite fun.
Yeah. I think it would be great if that lore aspect was less channeled into, in the future releases, I think it'd be great if it was channeled less into just, like, you know, jangling keys of, like, oh look, it's the Fredbear poster, I say with the Fredbear poster hanging up behind me, but, like, you know, where you know, instead of just going, look, it's the thing, you know, from that other game, saying instead, okay, let's build our own story and make this a game which is to be theorized about, because as much as I think as fans we wanted to theorize about Into the Pit, and there are things to talk about, like we have with how the pit works or how Pit Trap works, I think 99.9% of the story is what's on the surface. There's very little, I think, to solve about Into the Pit, because it's not designed to be solved. It's designed to be a story game, which is good, and don't get me wrong. But I think it would be cool if the next game is a little more into the idea of setting things up, of building up this lore of its own, so that we don't have to necessarily try and extrapolate things about this world from the old games, but we get to establish new things about it in this separate continuity. If it is indeed a separate continuity, and I'm not insane. Yeah.
Again, we're filming this 16th of July. Guys, if something has suddenly come out, we don't know.
Scott's gonna tweet out tomorrow. He's gonna go, by the way, guys, all the Megacat games are 100% canon.
100%.
Vanny
was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Stillwall Era wasn't actually canon. It's been Into the Pit this whole time.
Yeah. You guys just you weren't paying attention.
Oh, like in FNAF 4
is canon, but it's canon to the Into the Pit game. So
like how in FNAF 4 when Scott literally put that tweet out and was like, you guys don't have the lore, I'm disappointed. You don't get the box. Like, that was so mean. So
it's crazy.
Yeah. But I think for a first FNAF game, I love Dream Theory. I love Dream Theory. I eat that up. But yeah, I feel like for a first FNAF game, I get that a lot. Don't worry, I get that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for a first FNAF game, I'd say it was pretty solid. It's pretty solid. Well done, Megacat.
Oh yeah, very very solid. And I know a lot of people, it's their favorite FNAF game. Or they think it's at least the best FNAF game, even if it's not their personal favorite. It's up there. It is a really really. And I think it definitely achieves what they were striving to achieve with it. So yeah, I just am excited to see what they do next and how they adapt. I don't think Fetch would have been my first choice for the next game, but I also am like, I'm excited considering what they did to update and I think improve on the story of Into the Pit. I'm curious to see how they do that for Fetch and what changes they might make with the, again, starting from the point of like, okay, no, this is a full game. This isn't, you know, an NES cartridge game that will take 10 minutes to beat. It's like, no, this is a full licensed product that's going to come out on Steam and PlayStation and everything.
Which is like, yeah. Wait, so just to confirm, is Fetch like confirmed as a following up game?
I believe so, yeah. Because, I mean, Scott talked about it on the Doco interview. He definitely said, like, I'm pretty sure it was confirmed. Now, I could be incorrect that it's confirmed, but it was definitely the one that he was talking about them making next.
Yeah, it's likely to be the next target. But yeah. But, no, yeah. I mean, if it is, I can see why. But also, again, as you said, not the first choice, but it's... I think they can work with it.
Yeah. I might be actually wrong that it's not confirmed. Oh yeah, I think it's just everyone involved. So Megacat and Scott have all said like, "Oh, we'd love to make a Fetch game. We'd love to do that," so it's like, but it's not confirmed. But yeah, I'd say if Scott wants to do it and they want to do it, I would have no reason to believe that they wouldn't, unless he is just being nice and doesn't want to talk about some reason that he doesn't want to make another one with them. But that's pure speculation.
And that's it today for the Fazlore Podcast. Special thanks to our lovely guest, UnwitheredTruth.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I had a really, really good time. It was great.
So where can we find you? Like, what's your socials?
So I'm at UnwitheredTruth on pretty much everything on like Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, obviously. Yeah, you can. All my main stuff is on YouTube. I have started doing live streams recently. I've got a number of theory videos and a reboot series which I've been working on, which is like a pitch, I suppose, for what I would do if I were to start the FNAF games from scratch. I'm working on a follow-up video to the first one at the minute, and then I'm also making a Secret of the Mimic video, which will come out sooner than the second reboot. But yeah, just keep an eye out for all that. And then I also recently got access to the community posts thing on YouTube, where you can go in and post on my channel. I don't really know how it works yet, but go and check that out and share your thoughts on Into the Pit or on whatever you want. Get the conversation going. I love talking to people about FNAF and theories and stuff. And even if there's other stuff, I love Star Wars and Marvel. Talk to me about those as well if you want. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was really fun.
It was great to have you here. So that'll be... Oh, sorry, I can't speak again. That'll be it for today. Signing off and see you later.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Hi there, Reewyn here. A reminder, all profits from this series goes towards Dorco's London Marathon 2026 fundraiser, in which he is raising funds for Samaritans, a charity for people who are struggling with their mental health, offering support lines and services so nobody is ever alone. It's a wonderful cause, so please consider donating with the link in my bio or scanning this QR code. Thank you.